Hello there, Penguins of the Penguin Army. My name is Chewy5 and welcome to the F1 Roundup. This is the Austrian Grand Prix, which of course was a sprint race weekend, so we've got even more to talk about. I'm not going to go too much into detail in the sprint, but we are going to go through it very quickly. We're going to start off with the sprint. In the shootout, we'll go straight through the qualifying. It was Sargent, Bottas, Hamilton, Piastri, Zhou Guanyu, Russell, De Vries, Tsunoda, Gasly, Albon, Magnussen, Ocon, Stroll, Alonso, Leclerc, Sainz, Hulkenberg, another good week start, Lando Norris, Checo Perez, and Max Verstappen. This was on the Saturday in the morning, as they have a sprint in the afternoon. Some key parts: Hamilton had a bit of unlucky and got really close, but had a bit of track limits issues. Hulkenberg, great job. Difficult weekend start for Mercedes, they're the outsiders. And Piastri had a bit of a difficult weekend as well. They're the ones that are out of position. Aston Martin are a bit down where they are. Good to see Lando Norris up in P3 though. Really strong weekend from him. Bit of contrast to his teammate in the McLaren, Oscar Piastri. By the way, I've just released an absolute beauty of a livery for the British Grand Prix, but we'll go through that in 2 weeks' time. But yeah, we'll go through the sprint results. As I said, I don't want to dilly-dally too long on this because we've got a whole race to go through. Well, track limits to go through. So yeah, in 20th place was Bottas, Zhou Guanyu in 19th, Logan Sargent in 18th, De Vries in 17th, Tsunoda 16th, Gasly 15th, Magnussen 14th, Albon 13th, Leclerc 12th, so close, Piastri 11th, Hamilton 10th, Lando Norris 9th, George Russell 8th, Esteban Ocon 7th, Hulkenberg 6th, Fernando Alonso 5th, Lance Stroll 4th, Carlos Sainz Jr. 3rd, Checo Perez 2nd, and of course Max Verstappen 1st with a 21-second lead. But yeah, interesting to note, Hamilton and Russell actually got through the field quite nicely. Lando Norris dropped considerably, didn't get a point. Piastri came through, Leclerc struggled. But yeah, it's about what we expected. Red Bull dominant at the Red Bull Ring. What we expect. Someone sent me an email. It's not important. But yeah, interesting that Mercedes really struggled. Really struggled at this Grand Prix. Really struggled. Okay, we'll go through qualifying now. Regular qualifying. So, De Vries qualified P20 and he's just not of quality at the moment. No, it's the car, it's him, he's struggling. Tsunoda's doing alright, he's doing better, but that car isn't great. And we believe this season might be the last one as AlphaTauri. There's some reports coming out that AlphaTauri will change their name to something. I quite like AlphaTauri, but I did prefer Toro Rosso. But I'd love it even more if it was completely irrelevant from Red Bull and their own entity. But hey ho. Magnussen 19th, another difficult qualifying for him. Sargent 18th, yeah, we expect this. Zhou Guanyu 17th, Tsunoda 16th. And 15th, Checo Perez. Oh dearie me, he's really struggled in qualifying recently. This is about his 3rd Q2 in a row he's got knocked out in. Really struggled. Really needed that sprint race to get some confidence in, which was important. He just looks so out of confidence, so off confidence. Like his Q1 time is not a million miles away from Verstappen, but it is what it is. Perez 15th, Bottas 14th, Piastri 13th, Ocon 12th, George Russell 11th, he got knocked out as well. Difficult weekend for him. Albon, Albon again in Q3, fantastic qualifying pace shown from him. He's really doing a good job at the moment, really comfortable. Gasly 9th, better recovery. Hulkenberg 8th, really outperformed the Haas. Fernando Alonso in 7th, struggled a bit qualifying, it wasn't his weekend. Stroll 6th. Hamilton did qualify 5th. Lando Norris again showing great pace in 4th. Sainz and Leclerc 3rd and 2nd. Verstappen 1st. Really good job by Ferrari. Great job indeed. Okay, let's go to the race results now. This race actually had its results changed after the race due to some penalties for track limits, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, because the stewards whacked him out. About 1,000 track limits violations I read this weekend were reported to the stewards. So obviously you get your 3 warnings, then you get your black and white flag for driving standards, then you get your 5-second penalty. The problem was there were so many, but the stewards weren't giving drivers enough time to tell them what they've got their first warning before they're getting their penalty. It was all it turns out. I don't necessarily agree with it. I think it sort of took the edge off the race. You don't want to see races decided in the stewards' room. You don't. You don't want to see it. That's just not what we want to see. We want to see races decided on track between the two quickest drivers and the two quickest cars, like we saw in that. I was about to say like we saw, for the most part, bar Abu Dhabi in that Verstappen versus Hamilton season. That season was brilliant because it was Max versus Lewis. All season they were battling hard, and that's one of the best seasons in memory. And we saw Gasly get a win. This season, it's so far just been Verstappen dominating, and we still the same again. But man's just leisure at the moment, because he even had time to put another pit stop in just so he can go for the fastest lap. But anyway, Hulkenberg dumped on lap 12, Tsunoda struggled in 19th, Magnussen 18th, De Vries 17th, Piastri 16th, Bottas 15th, Ocon 14th, Logan Sargent, strong performance from him, 13th, Zhou Guanyu 12th, Albon in 11th, so close to more points than Williams, Gasly 10th, Lance Stroll 9th. Difficult weekend for Mercedes. Even Toto Wolff said they had a shit car this weekend. It was difficult. Hamilton and Russell 8th and 7th. Difficult weekend for them. Carlos Sainz 6th. Fernando Alonso good recovery to 5th. Lando Norris 4th did a fantastic job. Was boosted by a penalty, of course. Sergio Perez 3rd. Great recovery. Really good job. I mean, he needed that result. Really needed it. Charles Leclerc 2nd. He's in great form right now. Verstappen 1st. Yeah. Let's talk about that. Verstappen, by the way, this is 5th win in a row. We're not even really talking about it, Verstappen, because it's so dominant. He's 81 points clear of 2nd place. Oh well. Excitement was provided for battle podium between Perez and Ferraris. Leclerc won it, because Carlos Sainz's defence was absolutely marvellous. Really good job by Sainz. He held Perez, who was for about 4 laps, and gave Leclerc the clear breathing space he needed. It was some fantastic racing, by the way. Some really, really good racing. Some mistakes by Checo after he accidentally let Sainz get DRS on him. My window cleans have just arrived. But yeah, fantastic. He meant Leclerc was 12 seconds ahead with 9 laps to go, and Red Bull had no chance. But Sainz finished 4th on the road, but was one of the victims of the track limits investigations. Now, speaking of track limits, 1,200 I've got in my notes here. Offences over the weekend in total during just for Grand Prix. Aston Martin quite reasonably protest results because they had seen more, which they were right. But the FIA said investigation was already well before then. The order behind for Sainz crossing line had been Lando Norris, Fernando Alonso, Hamilton, Russell, Gasly, Stroll. But 5 hours after race, 10-second penalties for Sainz, Hamilton, Gasly, moving Norris and Alonso up to 4th and 5th, Sainz down to 6th, Russell up to 7th, Hamilton down to 8th, Stroll up to 9th, and Gasly down to 10th. Alpine driver Ocon, Williams driver Albon and Sargent, and we have Ferrari drivers were all given post-race penalties, but were already all out of the points positions. This killed the race. Like, what the fuck, man? Give him a chance. But yeah, it was imperious from Verstappen. He was able to make a pit stop to have fresh tyres to take the fastest lap. He is a joke. Small comfort for Ferrari, solid weekend from them. Very much needed. But let's talk about the driver standards now. In nil point position is still De Vries and Sargent. I'm not entirely convinced they'll ever get points. Magnussen and Tsunoda still on 2, Zhou Guanyu on 4, Bottas on 5, Piastri on 5, Albon on 7, Hulkenberg on 9, Gasly on 16, Lando Norris really having a good little run of form, 24 points, Ocon 31, Stroll 44, Russell has been caught by Leclerc, who are both on 72 points. Carlos Sainz is on 82. Lewis Hamilton's on 106. Fernando Alonso on 131. Checo Perez with some much needed points, 148. Max Verstappen's on 229. Which is interesting because he would have about a 50-point lead in the constructors on his own. Madness. Now, we've had 9 races so far this season, and all 9 wins have been Red Bull. All 9. So yeah, they're quite dominant, but races are also a bit boring at the moment. What we need is Verstappen to have an engine problem, Perez to have an engine problem, and wham bam, thank you, man. Mercedes, Aston Martin, Ferrari are really close on pace. McLaren have got some upgrades coming. Lando Norris is overperforming that car. We could be having like a 8-9 driver battle. Anyway, through the points. AlphaTauri on 2 and 10th, Williams in 9th on 7th. I forgot to do this last episode, so apologies. AlphaTauri on 9. AlphaTauri? We'll start again. I read AlphaTauri, but it's Alpha Romeo. I've also got a bit of a sore throat because I've just spoke very quickly for about 20 minutes because I just recorded a Canada. AlphaTauri in 10th on 2, Williams in 9th with 7, Alfa Romeo in 8th with 9, Haas in 7th with 11, McLaren in 6th with 29, Alpine in 5th with 47, Ferrari in 4th with 154, Aston Martin in 3rd with 175, second Mercedes with 178, and in first with 377 points, 9 wins, 9 more than the rest of the field combined. Red Bull. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in 2 weeks with a British Grand Prix, my favourite track. But till then, toodaloo. See ya.